Okay, just want to review open-ended art again because it's very important, and we're also going to talk about the stages of drawing. Okay. One more time talking about open-ended art, art versus craft, process art, product art. There's a whole bunch of different ways to talk about this, but here's what I want you to get out of it. That when you're doing, or you say you're doing art in the classroom, it should be process art. If you are working toward a final product where everything looks the same, everybody's done things the same way, that is not an art project. That's a project, that's a craft, that's not art, okay? So process or open-ended art is about being creative, thinking differently, thinking, individually, and using pieces in different ways. So it's about the process of creating. I've talked about easel painting a lot of times, but this is a really kind of easy to understand way of thinking about it. When you put out an easel with paints for kids, it's not about what the final product looks like. When kids get to be 4 years old or so, some younger, some older, that's when they start thinking about what am I drawing, right? And they have the ability to actually draw something that they intend to draw. Prior to that, it's about the process. It's about the activity. It's about being there, standing there, painting, seeing how the paints mix together, seeing how much paint I can glob on there and it'll still stay. Though that's what that creative process is. All right. So it's the process of creating. Everything will be different when you're doing art open-ended. Now, it'll have the same elements. You can put out a whole bunch of collage pieces and have people go crazy. You can put out art markers and crayons and paper and say, everybody draw a flower, right? That's art. It's going to be totally different for everybody. That's great. If you are drawing, you're saying, okay, we're all going to draw flowers, and I want you to get your marker and I want you to draw a circle in the middle of your page. Oh, you can't see that because I'm on the, I want you to draw a circle in the middle of your page. I want you to draw 4 petals. That's not art. That's not letting children be creative. Art is when children are given materials and encouraged to do their own thing. You can show them an inspiration. You can say, oh, look, here's something that I did when I took a can and some jingle bells and some yarn. Here's what I made. And then give them a can and jingle bells and yarn and see what they come up with. But don't say, I took a can and I put jingle bells on a piece of yarn and I tied it around and now I have a tambourine, right? If you're doing that, if you're making tambourines, that's fine. That's a project and you're following directions and you're all doing the same thing, but that's not art. Art process, open-ended art challenges children to express their creativity and individuality, which is sometimes hard for kids. They don't know what they like or what they think. And so just giving them time and encouragement is important so that they can use those skills. And then it allows for children to enjoy the physical and mental aspects of creating art. Especially with toddlers, it's so much about the physical thing. It's about drawing. It's about, we had babies paint with their feet, right? It's about that. It's not about what it looks like. It's about how it feels to do it, the experience of doing it. Okay. And then we have product art or crafts. So this is about the final product. This is about making sure that everybody has a very similar piece of final product, right? All the pieces are going to be the same. Children are given the materials and specific instructions. The thing that I always think about with this is those foam kits that you can get from like Oriental Trading, where you can make like a snowman and it's got a big foam circle and a smaller foam circle and a little foam circle. And there's a specific way you put those foam circles together, right? Now, if you were doing snowmen and you just put out all the pieces and let them do whatever they want, that could be art. When you show them, I've got my big circle, my middle circle, and my little circle to make a snowman, that is doing a craft or doing a following directions activity. And that's valuable. It's just not creative and it's just not art. Okay. So don't think you can't have coloring pages or you can't have those foam things. That's fine. As long as the majority of the art that you're doing or the art that you're doing in your classroom is creative, then you're on the right path. But sometimes we also know that moms for Mother's Day want to see a beautiful, flower made of tissue paper where everyone did a great job putting everything together with a pipe cleaner and put it in a vase. And, sometimes you want to just do a product that you can give that people are like, oh, this is great. But most of the time, you really want to encourage creativity. Okay, so let's talk about what happens at different stages of children's development. So this is stage 1. This is disordered scribbling, 12 to 24 months. This is when you see children who are drawing and their whole bodies are moving, right? Because it's about the sensation of moving. It's about seeing what's coming up on the paper, but you're not going into it with any intent. They're not saying, I'm going to draw something. It's totally about the process at this point because they don't have the control to conceptualize something and then draw it on paper. The next one is stage 2, 24 to 36 months. This is controlled scribbling. Now they're beginning to get the connection between the movements that they're making and the marks that show up on the paper. So they're seeing cause and effect. They're starting to draw individual shapes. They can move their pen or pencil or crayon and stop and move to a different section of the paper intentionally and start something new. And they're trying new things. They're 24 to 36 months. That's pretty much what they do. They try new things. This is stage 3, 3 to 4 years. This is a design and it's naming a picture that wasn't planned. At this point, they find that they can do specific things and repeat them again and again, right? They can draw shapes and they can draw circles and they know that they can do that. And then they can combine some shapes together, but there's not really a plan here. They're just drawing. And then sometimes someone will say, oh, Marie, what did you draw? And Marie looks at her drawing and she says, kind of looks like a unicorn. I drew a unicorn. Marie didn't set out to draw a unicorn. Marie didn't set out to draw anything. Marie was just making some marks on the paper and seeing what she could do and putting some things together. And then somebody said, what was that? What did you make? At this point, they are still in that stage where they're just all about the process. They're not thinking about, I'm drawing a picture that somebody's going to hang on the wall and it has to be something, right? And then the next stage is the pictorial stage. This is 4 to 5 years. This is representational drawing. This is when kids go, I'm going to draw a picture of my house. And they draw a picture of a house, something that looks like their house, their best effort at that. They're combining shapes and forms. You can see they're combining a lot of things together in this one. There's some squares-ish, and then there's those circles to make the eyes. There's intention here. Like, this is the thing that I planned to do, right? They're practicing symbols. This is the beginning of, at this point, back here, between here and here is when they start writing letters. Okay. So there you go. It's very interesting. And you don't think about it if you don't know this, if you're working with children, you don't necessarily want to talk so much about what are you drawing, especially a 3-year-old, right? Because they're not drawing something, they're drawing, right? it's all about the act of doing it for them. It's not about what they're doing in the end. So, and you should always ask a child to tell you what it is before you name it, because it can be very frustrating for a child, especially in this 4 to 5 year old range, where they think they've drawn something or they're trying to draw something specific with intention. They're trying to draw a fire truck, and you say, "Oh, Aiden, what a great dog you drew." And it wasn't supposed to be a dog, it was supposed to be a fire truck. That can make a kid go, "Oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm not going to try anymore." So it's very important that you say, "Oh, Aiden, what are you working on?" Right? So you give him the opportunity to say, "Well, I'm just scribbling," or "I'm just making shapes," or "I'm drawing a fire truck." Right? What are you working on? Not what is your picture? What is this thing? What are you going to make? What are you working on? Or tell me about what you're doing is even better, because it doesn't assume that they're doing something in the way that we think about drawing and art, right? You don't want to assume anything, because if you assume something and it's not what they were doing, that can be a cause for frustration. And this is a very sort of sensitive time in their lives where, it can be, it can make the difference between whether someone decides to draw more or goes, "Well, I'm not good at that," and quits doing it. So always be very open and accepting of what's going on.